This is 10 at 10, Bottom Line, featuring Nick Couzin.
KU will win the Big 12 championship this year, I guarantee it. The Bears and Jake Cutler will win the Super Bowl this year.
Griffin Hughes.
This is going to be one of the more fun seasons I think we've ever witnessed here. The reality of it is soccer is the world's game.
And Jackson Long.
Mr. Robot from behind the three-point arc, Dean Smith, was a pioneer in the game of basketball against racism in Chapel Hill and in off-the-court development of his players.
Music by Lucid Vision.
Welcome into a 10 at 10 special edition of 10 at 10 The Bottom Line. I'm Griffin Hughes, joining me is Nick Couzin, and today we had a Chicago-themed show. We had a bunch of Chicago, we had two panels.
Very fun.
Two panels of Chicago people coming back, talking, Bulls, Sox, little Cubs.
I did double dose. I was on both panels.
Yeah, that's right. You talked some Blackhawks, some Bulls, and then also some White Sox.
Yeah.
We also wrote a daily debate in the UDK.
Going tomorrow.
Come in tomorrow, or Tuesday, March 3rd, talking about who's got a better shot, the Rockies or the Sox. So we'll touch on that a little bit. First off, Jackson, he started with KU men's and women's basketball. Real quick, how can the men survive without Cliff Alexander?
Well, I think Perry just needs to keep showing up. I mean, Perry pretty much carried the load on Saturday to replace Cliff. So I think if he keeps putting up the numbers he is, with scoring almost 30 points as he had 28 on Saturday, I think that he could pretty much carry out the load. But, I mean, he was the only one that did produce, really. I mean, Jamari went in there for 11 minutes, quickly got 2 fouls and got taken out.
Yep.
0 points, 2 rebounds, and that was the only thing he had on the stat sheet was 2 rebounds. So I think the only reason is Cliff. I mean, Landon had minutes too, but he also, again, the fouls.
Yeah.
They came quickly on Saturday.
He provided, Landon Lucas provided 25 minutes. They were quality, but, not really. Offensively, he wasn't really an option, and he's never really been an option.
He's kind of been in there, like we've always talked about before, just eat up minutes, get fouls.
Pretty much, and be effective defensively. He's a good defensive post player, not really as a rim protector, but as a, he can play the post well defensively. I think the fact that they beat Texas shows me that they can function without Cliff in the lineup, mostly because I never really thought that they would have a chance with Cliff out, how Texas could dominate the front court. I think Texas had an opportunity to win it down the stretch. Isaiah Taylor, I don't know why
he was the best player in that game. Not really Perry, but Isaiah.
Yeah, he had a fantastic game. He was a triple-double threat for the whole night.
We let him drive in to the lane so many times in that game. It was just crazy. It was crazy.
Well, I think the team can function pretty well without Alexander, but I think if they want to make a deep tournament run, he has to be there, at the very least, just to be a strong low-post defender.
We need him for the rebounding inside.
The rebounding inside, the back down in the post is always effective against bigger guys. And then also as a rim protector, he's far and away the best shot blocker on the team.
And even if he doesn't score points, he still shows on the stat book with exactly what you said. Anything down low he can do pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, as far as NBA goes, you'd want him to have a myriad of post moves, but as far as college goes, he's got a back down. He's really strong. I mean, that'll get the job done. On the women's side, let's do a little panic meter. They managed to beat Oklahoma in Norman. The season finale is tonight, Monday, against Iowa State, and then the tournament is this coming weekend in Dallas. What is your panic meter from the women's team?
Well, my panic meter was pretty in the red until Saturday. I think it moved back a little bit into the yellow, like just a little bit slow, not fast, or stopping, but because I think Oklahoma was a ranked team and they came out and won by 10 points, so it was pretty convincing.
Yep, definitely.
And Lauren Aldridge showed up after having a little shaky first half, but I think if they can finish season 500 and go into the Big 12 tournament with 2 wins in a row, I think that's pretty good momentum to go into a stretch of 4 games in a row.
Yeah, definitely. Considering that they could be playing the 4 games in a row, and I think mine would go at about a 6. Obviously they got to panic because you got to think if they don't at the very least make the finals, if not win, they're not going to make the tournament. But the win against Oklahoma will be a big confidence booster. Quick turnaround coming in tonight against a very good Iowa State team. If they can get a win there, that's a ton of momentum going forward, and they get a lot of rest going into Dallas and even if they can up their seed just a little bit, they could maybe face Oklahoma again in the first round of the tournament, a team that they could beat again in Dallas. So I'm gonna say a 6, not too high, but they still have to be a little bit worried. They still got to win a lot of games. Elsewhere in KU sports, softball, 3 wins over the weekend. So
it was shortened by rain, but
that's true. They are finally ranked now.
They're 25th.
Yeah, I mean it's something.
They survived the scare though. They only won 5-4.
Yeah.
Against Stony Brook, so that was a little bit of a scare, but they pulled off.
Stony Brook is a good team. I believe they made the Super Regionals last year, if I'm correct. So Stony Brook is a decent team. Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
Some of those names for the smaller schools I really like. Swimming, we had an interview with freshman Anna Pirano on the show today. The Big 12 championship is over. The swimming season is essentially over. There's one swimmer going to the NCAA tournament for swimming.
Chelsea Miller?
I think so.
That
sounds right, yeah. Team got third, so, third overall in a conference dominated by Texas in swimming.
Third's pretty
good.
It's pretty good. That's a bronze medal in the Olympics.
Yeah, it's definitely.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, you're definitely right. And as far as school records and things like that go, they set a couple school records. Anna set, I think, 3 personal bests.
She did the butterfly. That was her specialty.
So, I mean, overall it was a good weekend for swimming. Track, they were also at the indoor Big 12 tournament. They didn't do as well, but obviously this is a conference that's dominated by a lot of track schools. So, I believe they got 7th, I think, which is not too bad.
It's not too bad. Yeah, I mean, the Big 12 is pretty stacked too, and the Big 12, pretty much every conference. I mean, every sport in the Big 12 is pretty stacked. So, I mean, 7th is pretty good out of 12.
Yeah, there's definitely not much that you can do when you're playing. Some of the Oklahoma schools, Iowa State's really good. Texas is always really good at most sports. So, there's things like that, but they did pretty well. And obviously, Michael Stigler, he's always going to be a constant.
That's the guy.
Yeah,
that's the
he's always going to be a guy to get you a lot of points. You can always. He's running a long distance really fast. So, really no better way to put it. And then I still think it's the case. 3 KU women are still ranked in the top 7 long jumpers. So you have that as well. And so there's a lot of stuff to build off of there.
Both men and women's track and field finished 6th place at the Big 12 Indoor Championships. Senior Kenneth McQueen won the 600 to claim his first career Big 12 title.
Chicago.
Yes.
That dominated the show today.
Yeah.
There was, I think, 4 professional teams.
Discussed.
5, I guess, if you
5,
include the Cubs. 4 professional sports, 5 teams.
We didn't discuss them, but that's okay.
4 professional sports, 5 teams. You guys missed the Chicago Fire, but they're not very good, and they're not going to be very good this year.
Well, we have pretty much every single sport you could think of. There's a team in Chicago. So.
Yeah.
But there's 5 major ones, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's true. Well, then, it is basketball season. We just heard the news today that Jimmy Butler is going to be out about a month with a hyperextended elbow. He got trying to come off a screen from DeAndre Jordan from the Clippers.
The weirdest injury I've ever seen. I'll tell you that. When I was watching the game yesterday.
Well, they got to get healthy. The biggest concern with the Bulls, not this season, but in previous seasons, has been injuries. They rarely have their starting 5 on the same court together. That's hurt their chemistry a lot. Taj Gibson's hurt. We need him as a big. Jimmy Butler's been our leader all season long offensively. We need him back. And Derrick Rose is the leader of this team. He needs to get back on the floor as well. But despite all the terrible news about these injuries, there's actually been some good news to take away from Derrick Rose because his rehab time will be only 3 short weeks, whereas his previous injuries have been many months.
I mean, the Bulls are just dealing with all kinds of issues. There's that. Obviously, very sad to hear that Derrick Rose is going to be out for another month with the meniscus tear. Taj Gibson rolled his ankle up on Joakim Noah's foot the other night, so he'll be out for a couple weeks because of that. I mean, just the Bulls, they're losing players everywhere.
They're not a healthy team right now. I mean, it just hasn't been consistent all year. They haven't had their starting 5 in there. I don't think more than 10 games this year. I mean, You had Paul Gasol out a lot of time this year. You've had Jimmy Butler's really been the only consistent person that's not been injured, and he's just got injured.
And now he's injured.
I mean, now you just have to rely on Noah and Gasol to carry the starting five. I mean, maybe try to get another guard. I mean, there's rumors that Nate Robinson's coming back, maybe, but I mean, right now you just have Aaron Brooks and Tony Snell in the starting lineup, and that's not really a good starting lineup with having Snell and Brooks in there. So
yeah, are the Bulls in panic mode right now?
I would say for the third spot, yes, but for the playoffs, I think they're still in because the East is very weak.
It is.
I think that the Cavs overtake them for third because they still have a half-game lead on the Cavs. But I mean, the Cavs are surging. I mean, we were wondering what happened to them early on in the season, but now LeBron's stepping up his game, and so I mean, it's going to be a tight race for that third spot.
Yeah, definitely. I'm anxious to see how the Bulls respond to losing so many. I mean, obviously they've played the last couple of years without a fully healthy Derrick Rose.
I think that Chicago, they spend too much time trying to build around Derrick Rose, but now that they know he's never fully going to recover from his injury, I think they need to move on and start building the team around somebody else, maybe a Paul Gasol or Jimmy Butler.
You think you want to build a team around Paul Gasol? I mean, you don't know how many years he has left.
Yeah, exactly.
In the tank, really.
That's what I'm saying. But I mean, you can't. They just have to focus their attention on somebody else because of the fact that Derrick Rose, with this injury coming out of nowhere, you thought he was totally healthy this year. And this surgery's coming out of nowhere. I mean, it shows he's not going to be healthy for the rest of his career.
Yeah, it's definitely worrisome that he picks up another injury to his knees. I mean, he's already had countless operations and repairs and all kinds of these things. So you never really know how fully healthy that he can be. The Bears.
Not much to talk about there.
There's one point that happened in the show today that I thought was really interesting. A discussion about Jay Cutler.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll flip to the Chicago Bears now, and we'll start with you, Coach Ditka, on this one. Jay Cutler, can the Bears win as a playoff team with him at the quarterback spot?
I got one answer for that, and that is no. Because we have seen his inconsistency at quarterback, and I hope in the NFL draft, since the Bears are picking 7th, I hope Mariota falls to them so they can get rid of Cutler because I do not like him as quarterback. Him and Marshall cannot connect as receivers, and neither can him and Jeffrey. I mean, we need a different look there at the helm.
Yeah, I mean, the entire roster was a complete mess last season. Jay Cutler, obviously, horrible production for what we were paying him. But I think the real struggle, which is what we got to focus more on, is the defensive side. The last 2 seasons, the Bears ranked dead last in defensive efficiency. And that's not Chicago Bears football, and that needs to change. So I think the focus for the draft is going to be on the defensive side. I think they need to get a safety or a linebacker because they need to get back to playing defensive-minded football, which is why they went out and got John Fox.
And that's why I hope Briggs and Tillman come back as well, because it was all about the coaching. Apparently, they didn't like Trustman being there. So
yeah, I mean that was just a mess from day one.
So him being there for 2 years set us back. I think a couple of years.
It set the franchise back significantly.
So now we have to work on rebuilding that defense and getting that offense corrected.
Maddie, we'll take Brian Urlacher's thoughts on the Chicago Bears now.
Well, I just think nobody likes Cutler at this point. Like, Chicago doesn't like him, his team doesn't like him, so I don't really know why we signed him for so long. He's not good for the franchise at all. If you don't even like your quarterback, you don't even believe in that. I mean...
I'm the guy that extended him the GM. He's fired now, so
yeah,
he made his mistake.
Yeah, there were a lot of mistakes made with a lot of long
Absolutely,
contracts.
paying Cutler a lot of money to maybe not get what it is worth in production. Excellent point there, Maddie.
I did like, the debate about whether Jay Cutler was the franchise quarterback because it wasn't too long ago. I mean, it was just about 12 months where, Jay Cutler was the franchise guy and, the whole team had to build around him. And now, we're at the point where we're talking about, is Jay Cutler even the guy that they want there anymore?
Well, I mean, Chicago fans in general are pretty brutal. I mean, besides Philly fans, they're the worst. But
yeah, Philly fans are definitely the worst.
I mean, the Chicago fans don't want him there. I mean, I think the problem was that our management was just poor. I mean, overall, our coaching was just poor. Our whole staff was just poor. I mean, the 2 years of having Trestman and Emery at the helm just set our whole team back. I mean, nobody wanted to be there. I mean, after this year, Briggs and Tillman, our 2 veterans that are left on the team, they wanted out. But now that he's gone and John Fox is in, and now we have new GM and new ownership. Well, not really new ownership, but new GM. Now they want to stay now, because I think it was just a coaching thing and the management thing that they were tearing players away, and now I think that we're going in the right direction, but we got set back a couple of years.
If you had to pick a new quarterback, if you were going to get rid of Jay Cutler, free up a little space, this is a very, very deep draft of quarterbacks. You know, this is Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota. The two are contending for the number 1 overall pick. Brett Hundley is a guy who could be a steal. Bryce Petty, who we all know, you know, we saw him for years playing with Baylor. Even Sean Mannion from Oregon State, you know, he's a guy who has a cannon of an arm. Who would you want out of all those quarterbacks?
Well, and personally, my favorite is Mariota, because the fact that in all the mock drafts now he's slipping into that 6-7 range, and the Bears are picking at 7, so he might fall into their hands. But if not, I would go with the Brett Hundley or Bryce Petty, as you were saying. But again, I don't know what offense that Adam Gase runs. Maybe you have a little expertise on that, since he was your team's offense coordinator last year. So I don't know, which quarterback do you think would fit in his offense?
I actually think for Adam Gase's offense, Jameis Winston fits the bill. He's a little bit bigger. Actually, I mean, he's not that much bigger than Mariota, but you know, he's big in stature. He's definitely more of a pocket thrower than he is a runner, and it was demonstrated. You know, he ran almost a 5 flat in the 40. I mean, pretty much every defensive line in the NFL can chase that down. So he's not going to be much of a runner. And you know, people were kind of wowed by his arm strength and his ability to make the mid-range throws. And that's really what Adam Gase's offense is built around, being able to make mid-range throws and occasionally throw the deep ball and also throw the underneath routes.
Yeah, because what I've seen in Jay Cutler running offenses, he's mostly deep passes. He's always looking deep to Marshall or Jeffrey. So I don't think that would fit in Adam Gase's offense. We're talking about short across the middle passes, because every time he throws across the middle short passes, it's usually intercepted.
Yeah, so, but Brandon Marshall is the kind of receiver to catch, you know, short passes over the middle and medium passes.
Hopefully with another quarterback though. Another connection.
I definitely think that Jameis Winston would fit Adam Gase's offense better. Me personally, I like Mariota better. I think he's a more complete quarterback. He's got a better deep ball. He can run a better offense. And obviously as a person, I mean, he's just immeasurably better than Jameis Winston. I find it very hard to believe that Jameis Winston aced his interviews, which is what they were saying on NFL Network during the Combine. I find that very hard to believe. He had
actually a very bad combine, very poor combine. So.
Beyond, the only thing that he really stuck out in was the mid-range throws. They had a couple of drills where quarterbacks were throwing about 10 yards. And, you know, he stood out in that, but so did Mariota and Hundley. So, but then beyond that, Mariota and Hundley, they're both his size or bigger. Both of them ran faster 40s, faster cone drills, faster shuttles. They both jumped higher. I think they recorded faster on the radar gun. And I'm left to believe that they had better interviews. So, you know, I'm not sure why Jameis Winston is still projected to be the number 1 overall pick. I mean, we just rattled off 7 reasons why Mariota would make more sense. But we'll see. I think at the end of the day, if Mariota does slip to the Bears, Adam Gase will have to adjust. But if he
I don't think he'd mind that though. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think he'd mind it if he can. I mean, obviously, when you have Peyton Manning, you're going to run whatever offense Peyton Manning wants. But I think now we'll see an Adam Gase offense. Exactly. And if Mariota is running the helm in that.
Mariota's younger, and I think you can develop him more better. Because, you know, Peyton Manning already had his game. By the time you guys got him, his game was already settled in.
Oh, definitely. Well, I mean, he was already one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. So I think it's much easier to have a quarterback who's already the complete package and then teach him an offense than to have a quarterback who, you know, can run an offense really well, but he's not a complete package. And it's much harder to teach a quarterback how to move around well in the pocket, maybe get out of the pocket if he can, throw, dump off, screen, stuff like that, like you get with Winston. Then Mariota, all you got to do is teach him the offense, and he'll run it. You know, I mean... you know, I could go on for a while, you know, disagreeing with all the things that they said on the NFL Network, the weird stuff they were saying about, you know, saying Marcus Mariota hasn't called plays since he was in high school.
They're a little biased towards Winston. But
I saw a lot of bias towards Winston.
I think it's because Dion and has the Florida State connection.
It might be that, and it might be that. I'm not sure what it is, but Winston definitely has more of a flair than Marcus Mariota. But I mean, it is what it is. I think Mariota will end up being the better NFL quarterback. And I think Brett Hundley will also end up being a better NFL quarterback. And he's a guy who could slip to the second round almost.
Like a nice steal pick. Nice.
He's a great steal pick, I think. I mean, him or Bryce Petty, depending on when they go, they're both steals. We'll see in the pro days what they can really bring to the table. But for me, having watched Hundley all year, I could go on forever about him and how great of a quarterback he can be in the NFL. There are other Chicago teams. We covered Bulls, Bears. Let's move to baseball. Let's wrap it up with baseball. Well, actually, we'll do a little Hawks first.
Yeah.
Because today's the trade deadline. We're recording during the NHL trade deadline, and trades going down everywhere.
Just like the NBA. I mean, yeah, I think these are the busiest trade deadlines I've seen in a while.
Oh, yeah, definitely. The Hawks, they made a couple moves.
To replace Kane, or as Coach Quenneville would say.
Coach Quenneville is an Avs guy.
He is.
Yeah, he used to coach the Avalanche, and
so thank you, Griffin.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome, because when he left the Avs, they were the worst team in the NHL. So you're very welcome for him. I like Patrick Waugh, though. I'm happy with him.
We saw 2 Stanley Cups from your team.
I'm very happy with Patrick Waugh, I will say. Yeah. But talk a little bit about the two guys that the Hawks got in the trade.
Well, Patrick Kane's he's out for 12 weeks, so we probably won't see him until if they make it to the semifinals or quarterfinals of the Western Conference Finals. But they brought in 2 veteran forwards that I like the moves because they can fit Joe Quenneville's, I guess, first or second line to replace Kane, whoever Quenneville puts him, because different games he put in different lines. But they got Kimmo Timonen. I got his name wrong. It's not Timo, it's Kimmo. From the Flyers for a bunch of picks that they had, because the Hawks, they traded away